Legend of Zelda has seen its fair share of evil and fiends, from Ganon to Demise, all the way to Bellum. There is no shortage of villainy. For well over a decade now, fans were led to believe Demise was the sole source for all demons, and demon-adjacent creatures seen all across the franchise's history, including Ganon. With Breath of the Wild's release, we then learned the true primordial form of these beings, Malice, the physical manifestation of all that is evil, and the primal goop that is the demon tribe. But where does Malice come from? I've pondered this question since Breath of the Wild's release, and proposed the idea that maybe there's something much greater, more terrifying, more powerful than even the most powerful demons we've faced before in the series. But if so, what could it possibly be? What could be the origin of all evil, more ancient than Malice itself? With Skyward Sword's release, we were introduced to Demise, or as known in Japanese, the unnamed bringer of death. He explains that his hatred will continue to rule demonkind and endlessly haunt the blood of the goddess, as well as the spirit of the hero who felled him. This essentially gave us an in-universe explanation as to why does Ganon keep coming back and how. However, it's worth noting that, in the Japanese version of Demise's final scene, he goes on to explain that the demon tribe would haunt the hero and the goddess forever. Rather than taking all the credit to himself, he spreads the claim to the entire clan. Demise doesn't refer to himself as the origin of all evil and all the demons, but rather, he could be a current source of malice on the surface. In essence, this means demon kings such as Malladus may and probably did exist alongside Demise as a fellow king. This makes more sense, as not all demon kings have the same goal in mind. Although broadly similar, we have nuances in cases such as Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, or Spirit Tracks. But why is it that the demons hate the gods as a whole? Or just Demise having a grudge towards the entire gods tribe, rather than just Hylia herself who sealed him away? Was it really just blind envy? The simplest and easiest answer is that they're natural opposites. One is light and the other darkness, a tale as old as time itself. Or, the Triforce's immense power drew them in closer with the promise of a wish. However, I'd like to introduce an alternative theory that could explain absolutely everything. In 2024, we were graced with Echoes of Wisdom, the most recent mainline Zelda adventure as Zelda. Throughout Zelda's quest, we're led to believe Ganon to be the culprit behind the rifts and various troubles across Hyrule. You know, the usual. We face Ganon twice, once in the introduction, the other in the climax. And for a short time, it seems this could be it. Well, until... Null, the absence of existence, the void manifest, an entity one could only describe as a primal, alien energy, and the natural nemesis to the Golden Ones. This fulfills many fans' desire for that alien invasion story, something like Majora's Mask's Romani Ranch quest, but vastly expanded. I know I, for one, have been craving something akin to this in a fantasy setting, and Zelda is ripe for these mysteries. For example, could they carry any correlation to Null? Perhaps they're aware of Null's existence and wanted a closer, more personal look, and crash landed into Termina. Null is absolutely brimming with these kinds of questions and theory fodder. What's more, its existence may have been hinted at for as long as 26 years. The seasoned Zelda fan may recall this scene between Link and the Great Deku Tree in Ocarina of Time. Here, we see that the gods descended upon chaos and brought order from this. For so long, we've known that there was a reason for why the gods created the earth. This very chaos, it was Null. The entire point and reason for why these characters exist was to seal a primordial godlike extraterrestrial. Because this is the creation of Hyrule's world, this would mean that Null exists in every timeline, not unlike the gods. This goes without saying that this may very well be the biggest lore revelation in a very long time, and nobody is really talking about it? Nevertheless, Null's foreshadowing was almost completely missed by most fans, and many chalked this chaos up to simply be Demise and his demon tribe after the release of Skyward Sword. Speaking of Skyward Sword, how does Null tie into the Bringer of Death, and by extension, the demon tribe as a whole? Little is known of the Timeless, before the idea of before was even a concept. This gets rather abstract, so stay with me here. This would have been the era of the gods and Null, when they were born, so to speak. What we see in Echoes of Wisdom is the era when time and space began, and new worlds were taking shape as the gods remained passive. Ironically, during this time of relative order, unbeknownst to their omnisciences, a different kind of matter altogether took form alongside them and consumed their creations, a spiteful existence in the true yin and yang of the Legend of Zelda universe. In this, what we'll call BE age, or before Earth, the gods and Null were at odds with one another. Null's constant consumption and natural state of darkness needed to be stopped. Life must dominate the ever-growing cosmos. That is the goddess's mission. The Golden Ones, with their combined power, sealed Null within solid rock and built a foundation upon it. They sealed Null in the planet. For thousands upon thousands of years, possibly even millions, Null had remained dormant, hidden deep within the Earth's core, awaiting to be awoken once again. However, Null wasn't completely dormant. Null hungered. Null learned hatred. This combined hatred and lust for destruction became everything we know now as the Demon Tribe. I believe that Null's grudge towards the goddesses is what bore malice, and by extension, the demons. Hyrule's history is the story of Calamity Ganon, they say. Calamity Ganon is an embodiment of this hatred. One could alternatively say, Null's vengeance is also the history of Hyrule. This would be the origin point for all that is evil in Zelda. Just like how the gods represent existence, and Null, the absence of existence. Null itself isn't exactly evil, though. Null is the absence of everything. It never acted in spite until it were actively aggravated, but rather, a more primal instinct to drive it forward, a force of anti-nature, if you will. Our first foray with the Demon King in Skyward Sword, it's told to us like so. Interestingly, the demons physically came from deep within the earth, exactly where we know Null to be sealed. This very well could have been the advent of Null's hatred, an initial jailbreak attempt. I find it difficult to say this would be a coincidence, or that they have no correlation. What do you think? So, what did take Null so long to finally make his own appearance, especially being so important in what I would consider to be the villain of the franchise? Well, we may have an explanation given to us in the last 2D Zelda game, before Echoes of Wisdom. A Link Between Worlds, similarly to Echoes of Wisdom, introduced another kind of dimensional rift, taking us to the drab lands of Lorule Kingdom. Yuga, the game's main antagonist, and Ganondorf's parallel, along with Hilda, Lorule's Princess Zelda, in an act of desperation and jealousy, opened a gateway taking them to a world with an unshattered Triforce, a world of light. This was the first time we'd seen this kind of world in a Zelda game, aside from something such as the Realm of the Ocean King. No, Termina does not count, it's not a parallel world, do not say that. You will be banned. And it very well may have had detrimental consequences. Many fans theorize that, due to the opening of these rifts, very well could have been the leading cause for Null's return. Perhaps Null exploited one of said rifts, and this is how he bled his way back onto the surface, beyond his geological prison. In appearance, Null seems to be a dark star, like in our universe. So then, what is a dark star? Well, according to Wikipedia, a dark star is a hypothetical type of star that may have existed early in the universe before conventional stars were able to form and thrive, powered by anti/dark matter. It's important to note that in our world, these phenomena are actively trying to be proved. But in Zelda, which is entirely fantasy, this could be taken to a more real extreme. Noting that, it's important to bring up that Tri also tells us that this giant purple sphere is Null's body. We can see that here, when we enter the endgame, not what we battle in the final fight. So then what is this? This Tri-looking monstrosity is what many people believe to be Null, but we know this can't be true. This leads me to believe this could be Null's consciousness, or even something akin to a Bunshin, something we've seen Ganon do before, making it entirely plausible. The reason this looks like a Tri, well, I think that can be easily explained due to Null's possession of the Triforce of Power, gifting Null a portion of the god's power. We see that, before obtaining the Prime Energy, this extension of Null takes a misty form with a purple hue, with 2 arms. To me, this must mean that the Triforce's influence on Null gave way to this type of form, and why it's even corrupted in appearance. Another potentiality for why this form exists is littered all about the body of Null are Tris that have been consumed for gods know how long. Furthermore, in the second Null phase, we can actually see Null do exactly this, absorbing the poor golden fairies into the void for its own reckless gain. This may also have had a large influence on this form's appearance. A couple things to note. This brings us to our final misconception. Null is not a god. We can't really say what it is. It just is, isn't? In Zelda, gods are separated heavily into their own category, more than just descended beings, almost like a species. That's why demons have the ability to make a wish, so long one is balanced in power, courage, and wisdom. It should also not go unmentioned, within game canon, gods are not permitted or even able to use the Triforce to our knowledge, barring Null off that bracket entirely, as we can see here. Don't let that fool you though. Null is not to be underestimated. After all, it did take the combined power of the gods and to seal it within a planet to stop it, but only temporarily. Yo, check it out, yo. Wait. Oh, look at it. Oh no. Oh no. It's